Welcome at the Digital Growth Conference 2017. How does your digital sales enablement landscape look like? Do you have an analog landscape with a few digital breadcrumbs? Or is your enablement landscape already very digital and you only have a few analog breadcrumbs? Our research at CSO Insights says that most organizations are still in the process of figuring out how to best approach digital enablement strategies that go beyond digital content. We live in a digital world. Look at your private life, how you shop, and how you make bigger buying decisions. The internet and all the various mobile devices we carry with us are already well established and the new normal way of shopping, buying, and booking all kinds of things. But did the analog world go away completely? No. In some cases, we still prefer to read a real book and not only the digital version of it. So it's our choice depending on our preferences and the specific circumstances. What does it mean for business-to-business sales? Sales organizations are traditionally not the early adopters of technology. And there are many options how to adapt, but not to adapt is not an option at all. Hello and welcome to today's session on the Technology Day. My name is Tamara Schenk. I'm Research Director with CSO Insights, the research division of Miller Heiman Group. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter or to connect with me on LinkedIn. And also please send me an email if you have questions to the content we're discussing today. I'm happy to help you along your enablement journey. Yeah, before I came into this role as a research director, I walked in sales and also sales enablement shoes. And in my previous role at a large ICT service provider, I had the pleasure of developing sales enablement from an idea to a program to a strategic and global function. So I walked in these shoes and I know that this journey can be painful, but it is worth the efforts. So we will cover today why digital is no longer a choice, what it means for business-to-business sales, and the main focus today will be to introduce you to a sales enablement framework that helps you to digitalize your enablement discipline. And then I will walk you through the different layers step by step, and we will have questions, time for questions and answers at the end. So let's begin with a digital transformation in business-to-business sales. So let's first of all look at transactional and complex B2B sales. Is very often overlooked, but I think it's always worth to define it and to look at the differences. So this is a simple framework that helps us to define transactional and complex sales. So the less complex your services are, and the less complex the problems are you solve with your products and services in customer organizations, the more likely you are in the transactional corner. And the opposite is the complex sales, the upper right corner. So that means the more complex your products and services are, just like big outsourcing deals, process outsourcing implementations that impact many different departments, things like that. And the more complex and strategic the problems are you can solve, the more you are in this complex area. So both scenarios are very different, but both cannot avoid going digital. There is no way not to digitalize the business, but it is important to understand the differences and the nuances of these different sales and buying models. We begin not with technology, we begin with a customer and especially with a customer's journey. Please don't make a common mistake to digitalize a sales system that's not really designed around the customers and the customer's journey. Buyers decide how and when they want to interact with a salesperson based on the kind of problem they have to solve, the complexity of the challenges they have to master, the risk they perceive, and that covers the business risk and also the personal risks. And then, of course, the specific buying situation. Is this a well-known challenge? Is this a renewal situation? Or is this a very new challenge they haven't tackled before? And also, what's the perceived value of a salesperson? So modern buyers want to understand what a product, a service, or solution means regarding their business value in their context. And that's because what a product is and what it does, that can be found online. Digital buyers don't need a salesperson for that, but what it means for them in their context, that requires to translate potential product value into the buyer's context and into their relevant business metrics. So selling in the digital age is creating value for each buyer at each phase of their customer's journey to help them achieving their goals. And that means that how we sell is equally important as what we sell. And this need to change the how to sell approach is one of the reasons why enablement exists. So before we go deeper into our digitalization details, let's quickly define what enablement is, just to give you a frame of reference. So at CSO Insights, we define a Salesforce enablement as a strategic cross-functional discipline that's designed to increase sales results and productivity by providing integrated content training and coaching services for salespeople and their managers along the entire customer's journey, powered by technology. So this is not a short definition, I know that, but it's a comprehensive one that explains precisely what it is, why it exists, how you do it, for whom, and what your design point is. So, but if you look at this definition or at any other you will find out there, a definition is by no means a religion, not at all. Definitions should give you a frame of reference, and they have always to be mapped to your context, and that includes your current enablement maturity. So that's why we always connect enablement definitions to our enablement maturity model. So now let's continue. Our focus today is, of course, enablement services for salespeople and their managers, powered by technology along the customer's journey. Now, let's go to the core of our session today. Let's establish a digital foundation for Salesforce enablement. I'm a big fan of beginning with the end in mind, because only if you know where you want to go, you can make decisions about the next required actions, how to get there. If you don't know where you want to go, will the next step you just decided on the right one? You don't know. So having a framework in mind really helps us with this digital challenge. So first of all, we begin with defining our enablement charter. The second layer will be about aligning our internal process landscape to the customer's journey. Number 3 will be we have to formalize cross-functional collaboration, and that's not only a technology issue. And then number 4 is the big issue of our enablement services that can come in these 3 pillars of content training and coaching services, and we have to align them to each other to ensure consistency. And then we want to digitalize the enablement services as best as we can. And then, of course, we should be sure to create enablement performance, and that should drive sales performance is what we want to achieve. So today's purpose is to walk you through this framework and to focus on the highlights from a digital enablement perspective. It's about getting the foundation right and understanding how all these layers are connected to each other. And I will add a couple of data points for each layer for you. We can, of course, not dig very deep into each layer in this session today, but whatever you need or you're interested in, please let me know. We have various sub-frameworks for all these layers available at CSO Insight, so we're happy to help you with that. So now let's go through the details and let's build this digital Salesforce enablement house step by step together. We begin with our enablement charter. So such a charter is for an enablement leader actually an internal selling tool that helps you to stay the course. It's based on really understanding the business strategy, the sales strategy, really understanding the current challenges, the weaks, also the strengths, and to see the challenges that really have to be tackled with enablement, with the aim to get them on the same page, all your stakeholders, regarding your enablement vision, the mission and the purpose, and the services you offer and how you do that, as well as how you measure success. So we have a detailed framework that covers these 4 phases that are here on the right-hand side. So it's about defining target groups, really going seriously through the vision, mission, and purpose exercise. And when that's done, to derive specific objectives, to lay out the strategies, how to get there, to map that out on the roadmap, and to clearly define the enablement services you currently want to offer, then for which target group. And please don't forget to define the matrix, how you want to measure success. So we see in our data, in our 2016 Sales Enablement Organization study, that organizations with a formal charter are much more likely to achieve their goals. Just look at the data, 51.3% versus only 1/3. It is a difference. So number 2 is customer's journey alignment matters. So we just said in the beginning, we don't start with technology, we start with the customer, and specifically with the entire customer's journey as our design point. So we have seen this trend over the last 2 years. So having a formal sales process is not enough. This one has to be aligned to the customer's journey, which is our real design point. And the data shows that there is a significant impact regarding quota attainment. So in our 2016 enablement study, we have seen an average quota attainment of 55.8%. But with a dynamic customer's journey alignment, this KPI went up to 63.4%. And this is a business impact nobody can ignore. In dynamic alignment here, that means that there is a formal mapping, that there is a formal implementation, that the key criteria, the key gates and decision criteria from the customer's journey are represented in your internal process landscape from marketing to sales to service. And dynamic means also that there are ongoing analytics that identify necessary adjustments from the customer side. And then, of course, you always should have in mind shared goals, shared processes, shared technology. So there is, of course, not just one customer's journey. In fact, there are as many as you have customers, but they all have a few patterns, phases, and gates in common. And that's what really matters here, to identify the important phases and the decision gates and the key criteria. For instance, what are the criteria and the decisions you want to see from a prospect or a customer when you turn a lead into an opportunity? Or what is it you want to see from a customer if you're going to invest in a prototype? So things like that, that really map the moving forward in an opportunity on both sides. Let's continue with number 3, and that's about cross-functional collaboration. And also cross-functional collaboration has to be formalized to be effective. It is very often underestimated in enablement because there is a saying that it would only be about sales and marketing alignment. But our data says that enablement teams actually have to collaborate with almost every other function in the organization, such as product management, marketing, event team, sales operations, IT, sales management, finance, HR, L&D, and so on. And I know that from my previous role, this is exactly the case. You have so many departments to work with. So cross-functional collaboration then has to be formalized. We see that clearly in the data year after year. So organizations with a formal approach are more likely to meet their expectations. Just look at the 59%, as you can see on this chart. The problem is that only 22% of our study's population, which was a global one, have a formal collaboration approach. So just think about this huge efficiency and productivity potential. So formal collaboration requires clarity on the goals. What is it we want to achieve with collaboration, and how do we bring that in a process? For instance, you may need different teams, product management, marketing, and enablement, and maybe another team for content creation. So set up a formal production process for content, and you can do the same thing for training. And just map a collaboration model. Which role is responsible here? Which role is accountable for this content type or for this training modality? And in the case of Salesforce enablement, such a clearly defined production process for the digital enablement service, just content and training, is really an essential foundation. So if you're interested in more, let us know. We have a framework that helps you to set up such a collaboration model. So before we come to our number 4 of aligning and integrating enablement services, let's clearly define what we mean by that. Let's look at the current enablement breadcrumbs that are out there and some data. So training services are the most important enablement service with 69%, and that covers skills, methodologies, processes, technology, products, etc. in various training modalities. So it can be classroom, e-learning, web-based, hybrid, mobile learning. All these different modalities are possible here. And training still comes in many different modalities. And there is also no right or wrong. It's just important that your audience can choose based on their preferences and their context and their learning purpose. So content services cover internal enablement content such as playbooks, guided selling scripts, or value messaging guides, as well as kinds of client-facing content and selling tools such as business value, ROI calculator, or configurator. So some of you may be surprised about 48.7% for content. Don't be surprised about that, because content is the foundation of every other service in here. So there is no training without content. So the 48.7 here are only the content that's delivered just as content. And coaching services cover training, content, and tools to equip sales managers to become top-notch frontline sales coaches. So now, as we got an overview of enablement services in general, let's now make a digital reality check. And to sum it up, there is a lot to do. Digital breadcrumbs do exist, but most organizations, 48.3%, share content still via email or via multiple content repositories. Yes, that's the truth. And that's not what drives adoption in the Salesforce. And it's also not a scalable approach that allows you to create, provide, and manage content efficiently. Only 10.5% for our study participants shared content via an enablement platform that's integrated with a CRM system. And that's actually the way to go, because that's a one-stop shopping approach for salespeople, and that's the best way to drive adoption. But only 10.5% do it this way. So there is a lot to do. Let's look at training. So classroom training is still the leading training modality, with more than 70%, followed by webinars and e-learning and mobile. And another interesting data point, in my opinion, is that more than 58% reported that their tracking abilities regarding content usage and content effectiveness and the interactions with prospects and customers need improvement. It means the majority is not happy with what they are doing and how they leverage technology in this dimension, and how to track the effectiveness of content. So now let's look specifically on what we mean by the 4th layer: align and digitalize your enablement services. So it means the need to provide consistent messages, specifically consistent messages in product or value messaging training sessions, or in the content they should use. So if salespeople come out of a training session and they learned some kind of messaging, and then they use your content and there's another kind of messaging included, that drives them crazy, and they probably won't use any of these things. So when you think about aligning these services, content, and trains, the minimum requirement really is to get the value messaging right. Just 2 data points for you. Only 8.7% of our study participants develop content and product training services together. And only 27.6% have their content and product training service aligned on the value messaging level, which you just said that's actually a minimum requirement. So to be able to do that, and that brings us back to the layer number 3, and this also clearly defines why this has to be the layer number 3 and this one the number 4, because you need a formal production and collaboration process in place to be able to do that. And you also need a clearly defined design point, which is the customer's journey. So here you see that all these things build on each other and come together. And now let's finally talk about technology. So by now, you know how to create your charter, how to look at your foundation, and how to align your processes along the customer's journey. And you have thought about how to implement a formal collaboration and production processes. And now you can explore how to integrate the various point solutions that are already implemented in your organizations, because that's most of the cases happening because nobody's starts in the middle of nowhere. So wherever you begin, there were already certain solutions out there. And very often these are point solutions. So a key principles for you to build your vision around are really seamless integration is what drives adoption. I've just given you one example about the integration of enablement content management solutions within the CRM. That just drives adoption. For salespeople, that's a one-stop shopping approach. That's just what makes them productive on what they like to do, and that drives adoption. And then, of course, mobile is no longer an add-on. Mobile is mandatory. And you need, if you want to go forward with these key principles, you also need a sales tech framework so that you can develop your strategy and that you can make the right decisions on your way forward to a digital Salesforce enablement approach. So now let's look at such a technology framework, how that could look like. As I've said earlier, the enablement actually sits between the customer's journey and the internal process landscape from marketing to sales to service. And salespeople have actually to manage these different dynamics along the customer's journey, change dynamics very early on, buying dynamics in the actual buying phase, and later on they have to make sure that they communicate the value that has been delivered. So also your tech framework for enablement sits actually between these two, and that's a bridge between the customer's journey and the internal process landscape. So there are a few layers to be considered. Let's begin at the bottom. So learning management systems are an internal layer that covers mostly how to sell aspects. So learning management systems are often driven by L&D groups, by general training groups, by academies, however they are called in your organization, and they cover more than sales. So just make sure that you have a close connection to these systems, and that what you need to be represented there is included there and can be tracked also by your team. And the next layer, this is the most important layer here, connects the dots between the what to sell aspect and how to sell aspect. So information, messaging, and everything your salespeople need to know about your product portfolios and how to position that and how to connect the dots to your customer. That's normally found in a sales enablement content solution, sometimes powered by additional collaboration systems. And what people find there is what you can call capability knowledge. Yeah, it's all about your services in a way that your services, products, and solutions address certain customer challenges and certain customer problems. And And then the next layer, which is necessary for the modern salesperson and to address the modern and digital buyer, is a situational knowledge, and that's customer information. So what is the specific situation in this lead, in this opportunity? What do we know about this specific selling scenario? These are all information that come from marketing automation to SFA to CRM systems. And what salespeople actually need to combine here, that's to connect the dots between the capability, the product knowledge, and the situational, the customer knowledge. And only then they were able to provide valuable perspectives to their prospects and clients. So think about how you're connected to marketing automation, to SFA and CRM systems, and what's the place for your enablement content solution in there. And then, of course, there's a very important additional layer about sales analytics and sales intelligence systems. So also they were often connected to or within the CRM system, whatever your situation is. If you're already providing coaching services for your sales managers, this is a key layer for sales managers to look at, because you get analytics from customer interactions, you get analytics about productivity and performance that can be and should be used in the sales manager's coaching approach. And whatever you do here, there should always be a mobile dimension available. So that's a tech framework that helps you to organize and to structure different technologies and to think about them and how to connect them. Also here, if you have any questions, you want to know more about this, just let me know and send me a message. So, powered by technology, that was the last sentence of our Salesforce enablement definition. And now you can actually define your digital priorities. So based on your enablement charter, you have done the customer journey alignment, you have set up cross-functional collaboration, you know how to align your enablement services and how to make the next steps towards digitalization. And now it's really about sharpening and honing your digital priorities. So I just want to sum this up at this point here. So if you're on the content area, just look for an integration of your enablement content solution with a CRM. For training, really make step-by-step a movement towards the modern digital learner. Just you can provide modalities. And then don't forget to focus on coaching for your sales managers and to leverage sales analytics to make the coaching really more meaningful. And what's always very important for me is to say technology requires leadership. You cannot only focus on technology, you also have to focus on leadership. Also here, technology and leadership should be in balance. So the takeaways, that's what we've done in this session. We defined the enablement charter. We looked at how to align processes to the customer's journey, how to set up a cross-functional collaboration, what the 3 enablement services pillars are, how they should be aligned and digitalized, powered by technology, and hopefully that should create enablement performance and that should drive your sales performance and productivity. There is a 5th layer I haven't mentioned so far, and that's this one. Please always, always, always measure success and adjust your strategies if necessary accordingly. Yeah, please feel free to visit us at CSO Insights or to become a research member. You have a lot of open market content in our blog. Please feel free to search our blog or to get more information about what you could get as a research member. So feel free to check this out. And we are already at our questions and answer section. So I will stop sharing here and we'll look at your questions. So I see a question from the Twitter feed. What KPIs should Salesforce enablement teams be measuring right now, and how have these KPIs changed in the digital age? Yeah, and okay, that's the first question. So there were 3 categories of KPIs, and in my experience, they don't depend so much on the digital age. They depend more on where you are along your enablement journey. So if you begin to work, for instance, in the content domain, and you implement technology, you will first of all focus on milestones, and then you will focus on productivity, and then the more impact you created and the better your adoption rate is in a sales force, you will be able to measure pipeline KPIs, which means sales effectiveness. So that's my take on this. So look at these three categories. How does social selling fit into Salesforce enablement? That is also a great question. Social selling is something that should be integrated in a solid Salesforce enablement approach in two ways. First of all, the social strategies should be aligned between marketing and sales as a foundational prerequisite. And then it's, of course, not just to book salespeople on a LinkedIn class on how to use the tools. Actually, the social selling skills should be implemented in your methodology, in your process, and really guide people through the whole landscape. So there is the need to integrate methodologies in your process landscape, and there is also a need to have shareable content available so that salespeople also can build their brand, can support the company brand, and can build their relationships, strengthen their brand, and identify the right persons to talk to. Do we have more questions? That's all what we have right now. Okay. So just feel free to ask more questions and use a chat box. Okay, it seems that we answered a lot of questions in this session already. So thanks a lot for taking the time for this half an hour, and I hope it was valuable for you. And yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining me. And I wish you other great sessions on this last day on technology. Thank you very much.